I would like to bring you a short sci-fi story. Hope you enjoy.
Private First Class Marcus Cain had never been so scared in his life. The relentless sun bore down on the exposed ridge, a makeshift outpost on the farthest reaches of human territory. It was an unholy war on an unremarkable hill, overlooking the glistening, turbulent waters of the Sithean River. Below, the alien swarm, a horde resembling insects more than intelligent beings, prepared for their suicide charge across the water. The air shimmered with the oppressive heat, the acrid scent of burning metal and charred flesh mingling in the stagnant wind. All units, prepare for engagement. The comms crackled to life, snapping Cain back from the abyss of dread that threatened to swallow him whole. He had lost count of how many times he had heard that command. The echo of doom had become a grim symphony for the men and women who stood beside him. They had been fighting for what felt like an eternity, their bodies running on nothing but muscle memory and pure survival instinct. Suddenly, the landscape of KJ-947 ignited in the chaos of distant explosions, enemy artillery striking the edges of their defenses. In the warm grip of adrenaline, Cain tightened his white-knuckled grip around his assault rifle, glancing over at Lance Corporal Otis, who was reloading a grenade launcher. The sweat dripping down his temple did little to mask the fire in his eyes. "Didn't they get the memo? We're not going down without a fight," Cain shouted, trying to inject whatever courage he had left into his words. Otis smirked, though worry pooled in the corners of his eyes. "This is it, brother. Fight like hell." The alien force surged from their hidden positions, a tide of color as they crossed the black muck of the riverbed. Their screeches rang through the air like a cacophony of madness, their grotesque forms illuminated in the fading sunlight. Some crawled with unnatural speed, others bounded forward in massive leaps, their serrated jaws snapping hungrily at the air. Breathe, squeeze, fire. His rifle spat back with familiar ferocity as the bright streaks of plasma rounds tore through the alien masses, striking true and dropping them like discarded husks. The limbs of the creatures flailed wildly, half dragged back by their cohorts as they stumbled into the reach of his comrades. "They just keep coming." Rifle bursts echoed around him as Cain flicked a glance at the casualties piling up. Out of the initial deployment of 1,000 soldiers, reports streamed from the command channel, over two-thirds down in less than 2 hours. Cain's heart sank as he realized the gravity of their situation. It wouldn't be long now before they were overwhelmed. Suddenly, their forward artillery unit, a set of crumbling tanks, became overrun. The lead alien warriors clambered over the armored beasts like ants scaling a mound, shrieking and gnashing serrated jaws. Cain's orders were clear: defend the hill at all costs. But how could he justify restraining fire when his own unit was compromised? Without hesitation, he grabbed his grenade launcher, hefted a few grenades, and fired. Thwump! One after another, they exploded amidst the alien throng, reducing lines of them to vapor as flames and debris erupted like a volcanic discharge. The visceral satisfaction of the destruction flooded Cain with a sense of purpose, but it was fleeting. Each explosion drew attention, and he was acutely aware of the price they were paying. The remaining soldiers were gunning down their own equipment to stem the tide. "We're falling back! Fall back!" Command hollered through the chaos. But it was too late. Panic raced through the air as soldiers scrambled to maintain order, their disciplined formations now collapsing into chaotic skirmishes. The blackened river churned with the weight of bodies, both human and alien, floating, broken, in its depths. Another wave, another surge. The river splashed behind them as tentacles of shadowy alien flesh pulled forward, creeping closer to the ridge that had become their impromptu fortress. Cain sighted down his barrel, breaths forming clouds of vapor against the oppressive heat, and fired. Then, a deafening roar reverberated overhead. A pair of ballistic missiles rocketed toward the front line, aimed squarely into the heart of the ocean of aliens. Whomp! A great fiery hell erupted, and where the missiles exploded, nothing stirred anymore. But the aliens were still coming. The seconds stretched like hours, dread pooling in Cain's stomach like acid. They had set up defenses, dug trenches, stacked explosives. But as he turned to see two of his choice brothers fall under the sheer weight of the alien push, terror clawed at him. "Hold the line!" he roared over the din, rallying his remaining mates as they faced the relentless swarm. They were 20 men strong now, barely holding their ground against an alien faction that outnumbered them 100 to 1. It felt like facing a galaxy of nightmares while standing sentry against the night. Kaboom! Explosions erupted around them as the last grenades flew, the sounds almost comforting in the frenetic scene. Explosions illuminated twisted shadows. The last of the fighters took position beside him as the surrounding hills began to dim under dusk, the shadows from the dying sun wrapping around their battleground. Cain wiped the sweat and grime from his forehead, his armor dented, his body screaming for rest. Then, a voice crackled in his comms, an unfamiliar one. "Reinforcements inbound. Hold out a little longer." A sliver of hope. Cain stood amid the wreckage, aware that he had joined a cadre 300 surviving soldiers in a calculated act of defiance against an overwhelming enemy. Each volley from their rifles and the command down the line reflected the motto that had been ingrained upon them: fight, not die. Survive for tomorrow. Avenge the fallen. But as the last of his friends fell, and he clutched the rifle closer, a glimmering specter. Amidst a blizzard of pain, a singular truth washed over him. Tomorrow was no guarantee, and in that moment, like a comet tearing through the night sky, Cain knew they would go down fighting, beneath the burning banners of humanity. Because if today was their last stand, then by God, they would make it one worth remembering.
If you liked this video, please think about subscribing.